The bourbon burned just right as it slid down my throat, matching the burn in my chest from another 14-hour workday. If life hands you lemons, it's probably because you deserved the scurvy. That's what I always told myself, sitting in my basement man cave at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, surrounded by the remnants of what used to be my dreams, old boxing trophies, a dartboard with Clara's brother's face taped to it, and a leather chair that had seen better decades. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name's Jack Anderson, and I'm a marketing executive who peaked in college. 40 years old, graying at the temples, with a wife who barely acknowledges my existence and a marriage that feels like a business merger gone wrong. Clara's upstairs, probably asleep, dreaming of her next corporate conquest while I'm down here drowning in spreadsheets and self-pity. The laptop pinged. Another urgent email from my boss about the Morrison campaign timeline. I groaned, realizing I'd left the files on Clara's computer after mine crashed yesterday. She wouldn't mind. We'd shared passwords for years, back when we actually trusted each other. I climbed the stairs, each step creaking like my joints. Clara's MacBook sat on the kitchen counter, its silver surface reflecting the dim light from the range hood. I opened it, typed in her password, our wedding anniversary, how romantic, and started searching for my files. That's when I saw it. A folder labeled, Best Moments with My Loved One. My heart did something funny. When was the last time Clara had called me her loved one? I couldn't remember. Maybe she'd been working on a surprise for our anniversary next month. Maybe there was still hope for us. I clicked the folder. The first video file opened automatically, and my world collapsed. Clara's face filled the screen, flushed and breathless, her hair spread across pillows I didn't recognize. But it wasn't her expression that made my stomach drop. It was the man's voice behind the camera, low and satisfied. Tell me you love me, Clara. I love you, Evan. God, I love you so much. Evan Pierce, Clara's colleague, the smug fitness freak who'd been to our house for dinner parties, who'd shaken my hand and complimented my grilling while apparently planning to destroy my marriage. I sat frozen as the video continued, showing my wife of 18 years in positions and states of passion I hadn't seen since our honeymoon. The timestamp showed it was recorded 3 weeks ago while I was in Chicago for a conference. My hands shook as I scrolled through the folder. Dozens of videos, hundreds of photos, text message screenshots planning their encounters, laughing about how oblivious I was, making jokes about my dad bod and my boring personality. The bile rose in my throat, but I kept watching, like a driver passing a car wreck. I had to see it all. I had to know exactly how stupid I'd been. One text exchange made me laugh bitterly. Clara, Jack's working late again. He's so predictable. Evan, his loss, my gain. Wear the red thing. Clara, already am. I slammed the laptop shut and stared at the kitchen ceiling, counting the water stains I'd been meaning to fix for months. Everything made sense now. Clara's sudden interest in professional development conferences, her new workout routine, the way she'd started showering immediately when she came home from client meetings. The front door opened upstairs. Clara's heels clicked across the hardwood floor. Jack, are you still up? I cleared my throat, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. Just finishing some work. How was your meeting? She appeared at the top of the basement stairs, still in her business suit, looking perfectly composed. Beautiful, even. It made me sick. Long and boring. Peterson's being difficult about the quarterly projections. She yawned dramatically. I'm exhausted. Coming to bed? In a few minutes. This Morrison thing is kicking my ass. Don't stay up too late. She blew me a kiss. An actual kiss, like she hadn't just spent the evening screwing her colleague, and disappeared toward our bedroom. I sat there for an hour, mind racing. Part of me wanted to storm upstairs and confront her, to scream and throw things and demand explanations, but a bigger part, the part that had learned to think strategically during 20 years in marketing, wanted something else entirely. I wanted revenge. The next morning, Clara bustled around the kitchen in her usual whirlwind of efficiency, checking emails while buttering toast, scheduling calls while brewing coffee. She'd always been a multitasker, but now I saw it differently. She was managing multiple relationships with the same cold precision she used for her corporate accounts. I'll be late tonight, she said, not looking up from her phone. Emergency strategy session with the Peterson team. Peterson again? I kept my voice casual, spooning sugar into my coffee. Seems like you're spending a lot of time on that account. It's our biggest client, Jack. Sometimes that means long hours. She finally looked at me, her expression patient but condescending. You understand. Oh, I understood perfectly. After she left, I opened her laptop again and copied everything to a flash drive. Every photo, every video, every text message. Then I did something that would have made my old boxing coach proud. I started planning my attack. Evan Pierce was a creature of habit. He posted his daily routine on social media like clockwork. Morning workout at Elite Fitness, lunch at Provisions Cafe, evening runs through Deering Oaks Park. He drove a pristine silver BMW that he treated like a shrine, posting photos of it washed and waxed every Sunday. Clara had patterns too. Her emergency meetings always happened on Tuesdays and Fridays. She'd started carrying breath mints and using a different perfume, subtle changes I'd attributed to professional growth. Now I saw them for what they were, preparation for adultery. I called in sick to work and drove to Elite Fitness, parking across the street with a clear view of the entrance. At 6:47 a.m., Evan emerged, sweaty and satisfied, checking his reflection in his car window before driving away. Predictable as a Swiss watch. That evening, Clara came home at 9:15, exactly 15 minutes later than she'd been coming home on Peterson nights. Her hair was slightly mussed, despite obvious attempts to fix it, and she had that glow that comes from physical exertion, though not the kind she claimed. "How was the emergency session?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. "Productive. We made real progress." She kissed the top of my head, and I caught a whiff of cologne that definitely wasn't mine. "I'm going to shower." While the water ran upstairs, I made my first move. I opened Clara's work laptop and navigated to her presentation folder for tomorrow's board meeting, the one she'd been stressing about for weeks, the one that could make or break her promotion to senior partner. Then I created a new folder inside her presentation directory and copied a selection of her most explicit videos into it. The folder name? Board Meeting Materials, Final. Tomorrow morning, when Clara opened her presentation in front of the company's executive team, she'd get quite a surprise. And so would they. I closed the laptop and poured another bourbon, listening to my wife humming in the shower as she washed away the evidence of her betrayal. She had no idea what was coming. The water stopped running. Clara's voice drifted downstairs, casual and content. "Jack, can you bring me a towel? I forgot to grab one." "Sure thing, honey," I called back, my voice dripping with false sweetness. "Anything for you?" As I climbed the stairs with her towel, I couldn't help but smile. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay in bed next to Clara, listening to her peaceful breathing and planning my next moves. She slept like a baby. No guilt, no conscience, just the deep slumber of someone who thought she was smarter than everyone else. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from my old friend Tommy Reddick, who ran a boxing gym downtown. "Haven't seen you in months, Jack. Come by today if you need to hit something." Perfect timing. I needed to hit something very badly. Clara was already in the shower when I got up, preparing for what she thought would be just another day of corporate success and marital deception. I made coffee and toast, playing the dutiful husband one last time. "Big day today," she said, emerging from the bathroom in her power suit, navy blue with a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "The board presentation could change everything." "I'm sure it will," I said, unable to keep the smile off my face. "Break a leg." She kissed my cheek and grabbed her laptop bag. "Wish me luck." "You won't need it." After she left, I drove to Reddick's boxing gym, a glorified warehouse in the old port that smelled like sweat, leather, and broken dreams. Tommy was wrapping his hands when I walked in, a stocky Irish guy who taught me everything I knew about fighting and about taking a punch. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," he grinned, then saw my expression. "Jesus, Jack, you look like someone ran over your dog. What's eating you?" I told him everything. The videos, the texts, the lies, the humiliation. Tommy listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or shaking his head. "So, what's your play?" he asked when I finished. "I want to destroy them. All of them. I want them to feel what I felt last night, sitting in my kitchen, realizing my entire marriage was a joke." Tommy handed me a pair of gloves. "Then you better learn to hit harder than you're getting hit. Come on." We spent 2 hours working the heavy bag, and with each punch, I felt clearer, more focused. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about justice. Clara and Evan thought they were so clever, so sophisticated, playing their little game while the stupid husband worked late and paid the bills. They were about to learn that stupid husbands sometimes bite back. At 10:30 a.m., my phone exploded. 17 missed calls from Clara. 12 text messages, starting professional and quickly deteriorating into panic. "Call me now." "Jack, something terrible happened. My presentation got corrupted somehow. The board saw things they shouldn't have seen." "Where are you?" I turned off my phone and kept hitting the bag. At noon, I drove to Provisions Cafe, where Evan always had lunch. He was sitting at his usual table by the window, but instead of his typical smug confidence, he looked pale and shaken. His phone was face down on the table, and he kept glancing around nervously. I ordered a sandwich and sat 3 tables away, close enough to hear him when his phone rang. "Clara, calm down," he said in a low voice. "Yes, I heard what happened. Half the city's heard by now." A pause. "No, I can't see you tonight. My wife's suspicious. She got a call from someone at your office." Another pause, longer this time. "I don't know how it happened, but we need to lay low for a while. This is bad, Clara. Really bad." He hung up and buried his face in his hands. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I finished my sandwich and walked past his table on my way out. He looked up just as I passed, and our eyes met. I smiled and gave him a little wave. "Beautiful day, isn't it, Evan?" His face went white. He knew the fallout was spectacular. By evening, the story had spread through Portland's tight-knit business community like wildfire. Clara Anderson, rising star at Hartwell & Associates, had accidentally played explicit personal videos during a board presentation. The company's biggest clients had been in that room. Their wives had been in that room. I got home at 6 to find Clara's car in the driveway and all the lights on. She was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, surrounded by tissues and empty wine bottles. Her makeup was smeared, her perfect hair disheveled, and her power suit wrinkled like she'd been wearing it for days. "Jack!" Her voice was hoarse from crying. "Thank God you're here. Something terrible happened today." I set down my keys and looked at her with what I hoped was appropriate concern. "What's wrong?" "Someone sabotaged my presentation. Someone put videos in my work files, personal videos that should never have been there." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "The board saw everything. Everything, Jack." "What kind of videos?" She hesitated, probably calculating how much truth she could get away with. "Private moments. Between me and someone else." "Someone else?" I sat down across from her, playing dumb. "What do you mean?" "I've been having an affair." The words came out in a rush, like she was ripping off a bandage. "With Evan Pierce? It's been going on for months, and now everyone knows. The whole company knows. The clients know. It's over, Jack. My career, my reputation, everything." I stared at her for a long moment, watching her squirm. Part of me wanted to keep the charade going, to make her explain every detail, every lie, every betrayal. But a bigger part was tired of pretending. "I know," I said quietly. "You? What?" "I know about the affair. I found the videos on your computer last night. I saw everything." Her face cycled through confusion, realization, and finally, rage. "You did this. You sabotaged my presentation." "I did. How could you?" She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "How could you humiliate me like that? In front of everyone?" The audacity was breathtaking. "How could I humiliate you? Clara, you've been screwing your colleague for months. You've been lying to me every day, making me feel like I was crazy for noticing the distance between us. And you want to talk about humiliation? That's different." "No, it's not different. It's exactly the same. You humiliated me in private, so I returned the favor in public." She started pacing, her heels clicking frantically on the kitchen tiles. "This will destroy me, Jack. Do you understand that? I'll never work in this city again, maybe anywhere." "Good." The word hung in the air between us like a slap. Clara stopped pacing and stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. "Who are you?" she whispered. "I'm your husband. The man you promised to love, honor, and cherish. The man you've been betraying for months while I worked overtime to pay for your designer clothes and luxury car and fancy dinners." I stood up, suddenly feeling taller than I had in years. "I'm the man you underestimated." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk." Megan Firth. Clara's best friend and confidant. The woman who'd been coming to our house for years, eating our food, drinking our wine, and apparently helping my wife cheat on me. "Looks like I'm popular tonight," I said, showing Clara the message. "Your friend wants to chat." Clara's face went even paler. "Jack, Megan doesn't have anything to do with this." "Doesn't she? Because I'm starting to think a lot of people have been lying to me for a very long time." I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Clara called after me. "To find out just how deep this rabbit hole goes." I met Megan at a dive bar called Murphy's, the kind of place where the beer was cheap and the lighting was dim enough to hide secrets. She was already there when I arrived, nursing a whiskey and looking like she'd aged 5 years in one day. Megan Firth was everything Clara wasn't. Short where Clara was tall, brunette where Clara was blonde, soft where Clara was sharp. They'd been friends since college, and I'd always assumed Megan was the loyal sidekick, content to live in Clara's shadow. I was wrong about a lot of things. Jack? She didn't look up when I sat down. I wasn't sure you'd come. Wouldn't miss it. Seems like everyone's got something to tell me today. The bartender, a grizzled guy with navy tattoos, brought me a beer without being asked. Small-town bars, they remembered your drink even if you hadn't been there in months. You really did a number on her today, Megan said finally. Clara's career is finished. You know that, right? That was the point. Was it worth it? Destroying the mother of your children? My children are adults, and their mother destroyed herself the minute she decided to cheat on me. I took a long pull of beer. But you didn't ask me here to discuss Clara's career prospects. What do you want, Megan? She finally looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never noticed before. Calculation. Cold, careful calculation. I want you to stop. Stop what? Whatever you're planning next. Because I know you, Jack. You're not done. The presentation was just the opening act. She was right. I had plans for Evan. Plans that would make Clara's public humiliation look like a warm-up. But how did she know? You seem awfully concerned about people who aren't your problem. They are my problem. Megan finished her whiskey and signaled for another. Clara's not just my friend. She's my business partner. We've been planning to start our own consulting firm for 2 years. Her reputation affects my future, too. Then maybe you should have talked her out of the affair. Megan laughed, a bitter sound that didn't match her usual personality. Talk her out of it? Jack, I'm the one who introduced them. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Evan Pierce. I met him at a networking event last year and thought he'd be perfect for Clara. Successful, handsome, ambitious. Everything she wanted that she wasn't getting at home. I stared at her, pieces clicking into place. You set them up. I facilitated a meeting between 2 consenting adults. What they did after that was their choice. Bullshit. The word came out louder than I intended, drawing looks from the other patrons. I lowered my voice. You orchestrated this whole thing. The question is why? Megan's second whiskey arrived. She took a sip, studying me over the rim of her glass. Do you remember when I worked at Morrison Marketing? About 5 years ago? Morrison Marketing, my company's biggest competitor. I had a vague memory of Megan working there briefly, but you got me fired. The memory came flooding back. Megan had been working as an account coordinator at Morrison when they pitched against us for the Coastal Bank contract. Someone had leaked our strategy to them, and we'd lost the account. During the post-mortem, I'd mentioned seeing Megan at a coffee shop where I'd been discussing the pitch with my team. It wasn't proof, but it was enough to raise questions. Morrison had let her go quietly, and she'd never worked in marketing again. You cost me my career, she continued. 5 years of rebuilding, 5 years of working twice as hard for half the recognition, all because you couldn't stand losing a client. You were industrial espionage? I was getting coffee. Her voice cracked with old rage. I happened to be in the same cafe where you were loudly discussing confidential strategy. I didn't ask to overhear it. But you used what you heard. I was 28 years old, trying to impress my boss. Yes, I used it. And yes, it was wrong. But destroying my career over it. That was vindictive, Jack. That was personal. I felt like I was looking at a stranger. The Megan I thought I knew, sweet, supportive, slightly insecure Megan, had been a mask. Underneath was someone who'd spent 5 years planning revenge. So you decided to destroy my marriage. I decided to give Clara what she wanted. A successful, attractive man who paid attention to her. The fact that it would hurt you was just a bonus. And now? Now I'm asking you to stop before this gets worse. Clara's humiliated, Evan's marriage is in trouble, and you've had your revenge. We can all walk away from this. I finished my beer and stood up. No. Jack, you spent 5 years planning to destroy my life. You manipulated my wife, corrupted my marriage, and turned my best friend into your weapon. And now you want me to just walk away because you're worried about your business plans? If you don't stop, I'll destroy you. Her mask slipped completely now, revealing the cold fury underneath. I know things about you, Jack. Things that could end your career, your reputation, everything you've worked for. Like what? She smiled, and it was like looking at a shark. Like the Morrison account. The real reason you suspected me wasn't because you saw me at a coffee shop. It was because you were feeding information to Coastal Bank's CEO, trying to steer the contract toward your company. Industrial espionage, Jack. Just like you accused me of. She was right. I had been in contact with Coastal Bank's CEO, using a college connection to influence their decision. It wasn't illegal, but it was ethically questionable. And if it came out now, you can't prove that. I kept records. Emails, phone logs, meeting notes, everything I needed to clear my name if it ever became necessary. She leaned back in her chair, confident now. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop whatever you have planned for Evan. You're going to apologize to Clara and work on rebuilding your marriage. And you're going to forget this conversation ever happened. Or what? Or I'll destroy you the same way you destroyed me. Only I'll be much more thorough. I walked out of the bar without another word, but my mind was racing. Megan thought she held all the cards, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd told me exactly how she'd orchestrated everything. I spent the next morning at the Portland Public Library using their computers to research everything I could find about Megan Firth. If she'd been planning revenge for 5 years, she'd left tracks. Everyone did. What I found was interesting. After Morrison Marketing, Megan had worked a series of temporary consulting jobs, never staying anywhere long enough to build real relationships or trust. She'd been living modestly, saving money, and building a network of contacts who owed her favors. More importantly, she'd been documenting everything. Social media posts, professional networking updates, even blog entries about overcoming workplace betrayal. She was obsessed with the Morrison incident, unable to let it go. That obsession was going to be her downfall. I drove to Elite Fitness at 6:30 a.m., knowing Evan would be finishing his workout. He emerged right on schedule, but instead of his usual confident swagger, he moved like a man carrying the weight of the world. His BMW was parked in its usual spot, pristine as always. I waited until he was inside the gym, then got to work. The fish market downtown opened at 5 a.m. to serve the restaurant trade. For $50, they sold me a bucket of fish guts and heads that had been sitting in the sun for 2 days. The smell was indescribable. Evan's BMW was unlocked. Who would steal a car in this neighborhood at dawn? I dumped the fish remains into his back seat, making sure to get some under the seats where it would be nearly impossible to clean. Then I took out my keys and carved a simple message into his driver's side door. Cheater. The security camera above the gym entrance was pointed at the building, not the parking lot. Even if someone saw me, I looked like any other early morning gym goer. I was back in my car when Evan emerged 45 minutes later. I watched from across the street as he discovered my gift, his face cycling through confusion, disgust, and rage. He tried calling someone, Clara probably, but she wasn't answering. His marriage was already in trouble thanks to yesterday's presentation. This would finish it. My phone buzzed, a text from Clara. Come home. We need to talk. I found her in the kitchen, looking slightly more composed than she had the night before. She'd showered and changed into jeans and a sweater, casual clothes that made her look younger, more like the woman I'd married. I talked to Megan last night after you left, she said without preamble. She told me about your conversation. Did she? And what did she tell you? That you threatened her, that you're planning to hurt more people. Clara sat down across from me, her hands folded on the table. Jack, I know I hurt you. I know what I did was unforgivable. But this has to stop. Does it? Evan's wife left him this morning. She took their kids and went to her mother's house. His car was vandalized, and he thinks you did it. Smart man. Jack, no, Clara. You don't get to do this. You don't get to cheat on me for months, humiliate me, lie to me, and then ask me to be the bigger person when there are consequences. I'm not asking you to be the bigger person. I'm asking you to stop before you do something you can't take back. Like what? Like destroying a marriage? Like betraying someone who trusted me? Like spending months planning to hurt someone who never did anything to deserve it? I leaned forward. Because it sounds like you and your friends already covered all that ground. Clara's composure cracked. Megan didn't plan this, Jack. She introduced me to Evan, yes, but she didn't force me to have an affair. That was my choice. Was it? Because Megan seems to think she orchestrated the whole thing as revenge for something that happened 5 years ago. That's not... She wouldn't... Clara trailed off, doubt creeping into her voice. Ask her. Ask your best friend if she's been using you as a weapon against me. Ask her if she really cares about your happiness or if she just wanted to watch me suffer. I could see the wheels turning in Clara's head, memories being re-examined through a new lens. How many of Megan's suggestions had led to this moment? How many casual comments about marriage and happiness and deserving better had been calculated manipulations? Even if that's true, Clara said finally, it doesn't change what I did. I made the choice to cheat. I have to live with that. Yes, you do, and so do I. But Megan? I smiled. Megan's going to learn that revenge is a game two can play. That evening, I called Evan Pierce. He answered on the first ring, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. What do you want, Jack? To talk. Face to face, like men. So you can vandalize my car again? So we can settle this without lawyers or police reports or any more public humiliation? I kept my voice calm, reasonable. One conversation, and then we're done. He was quiet for a long moment. Where? Reddick's boxing gym. 8 o'clock. Come alone. Jack, one conversation, Evan. That's all I'm asking. I hung up before he could respond. Tommy Reddick was locking up when I arrived at 7:45, but he let me in when I explained what I needed. The gym was empty except for us, the overhead lights casting long shadows between the heavy bags and speed bags. You sure about this? Tommy asked. Guy like that? He might come with backup. He'll come alone. His ego won't let him do otherwise. Evan arrived exactly at 8, wearing jeans and a polo shirt that probably cost more than most people's car payments. He looked around the gym with obvious distaste, taking in the peeling paint and worn equipment. Charming place, he said. Very authentic. It's where I learned that actions have consequences, I replied. Something you apparently never learned. Look, Jack, I know you're angry. Angry? I laughed. Evan, I'm past angry. I'm at acceptance. You and Clara destroyed my marriage, and I destroyed your careers. We're even. He relaxed slightly. So what do you want? I want you to understand something. This wasn't random. Clara didn't just happen to meet you and fall into bed. You were chosen, manipulated, used as a weapon against me. What are you talking about? I told him about Megan, about the Morrison incident, about 5 years of planning and manipulation. I watched his face change as the pieces fell into place, how Megan had introduced them, how she'd encouraged their relationship, how she'd always been there with advice and support. She played us both, I finished. You, me, Clara, all of us were just pieces on her chessboard. Evan's jaw tightened. You're lying. Am I? When did you first meet Megan? Was it at that networking event she mentioned, or was it earlier? Did she seek you out specifically, or was it really just a coincidence? I could see him thinking, remembering. The doubt in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. Even if that's true, he said finally, it doesn't change what happened between Clara and me. That was real. Was it? Or were you just following a script someone else wrote? He took a swing at me then, a clumsy right hook that telegraphed itself from miles away. I slipped it easily and caught him with a quick jab to the solar plexus. Not hard enough to seriously hurt him, but hard enough to double him over. I didn't bring you here to fight, I said as he gasped for air. I brought you here to give you a choice. What? What choice? Help me expose Megan, or go down with her when I do it myself. He straightened up, still breathing hard. What do you mean? Megan kept records of everything. She documented her revenge plan like she was writing a case study. Phone calls, emails, meeting notes. All the evidence anyone would need to prove she orchestrated this whole thing. How do you know that? Because she told me. She was so proud of her planning, so confident in her control that she couldn't resist bragging about it. I pulled out my phone and showed him the recording app, including this conversation we're having right now. Evan's face went white. You recorded our conversation last night? I record everything now. Trust but verify, as they say. I put the phone away. So here's your choice. Help me get the evidence I need to prove Megan's manipulation, and I'll make sure everyone knows you were a victim too. Refuse, and I'll destroy you along with her. What kind of evidence? Phone records, email logs, meeting notes, all the documentation she bragged about keeping. I stepped closer. She used you, Evan. She destroyed your marriage, your reputation, your relationship with your children. Don't you want her to pay for that? He was quiet for a long time, staring at the floor. When he finally looked up, his eyes were hard. What do you need me to do? The Portland Business Journal's annual networking gala was the social event of the year for the city's professional community. 500 of the most influential people in Maine gathered in the ballroom of the Eastland Park Hotel to see and be seen. Clara had been planning to attend for months before her career imploded. Now she was persona non grata, uninvited and unwelcome. But Megan would be there, representing her new consulting venture and networking with potential clients who didn't yet know about her role in recent events. I bought a ticket under my company's name and arrived fashionably late, when the cocktail hour was in full swing. The ballroom buzzed with conversation, laughter, and the clink of champagne glasses. Everyone who mattered in Portland business was there, including Megan, who was holding court near the bar, telling some story that had her audience laughing. She looked confident, successful, like a woman who'd overcome adversity through hard work and determination, the perfect victim narrative. I waited until she was alone, then approached with 2 glasses of champagne. "Megan, you look lovely tonight." She turned, and for just a moment, her mask slipped. Fear flickered across her features before the confident smile returned. "Jack, I'm surprised to see you here." "Are you? I thought you'd be expecting me." I offered her one of the champagne glasses. "After all, you know me so well." She didn't take the glass. "What do you want?" "To congratulate you. Your plan worked perfectly. Clara and I are getting divorced, Evan's marriage is over, and you've positioned yourself as the loyal friend who tried to hold everything together." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you don't." I set both glasses on a nearby table and pulled out my phone. "Would you like to hear how well you don't know what you're talking about?" I pressed play on the recording from Murphy's bar. Megan's voice filled the space between us, clear and damning. "I'm the one who introduced them. I met him at a networking event last year and thought he'd be perfect for Clara." Her face went pale. "You recorded me without my consent. That's illegal in Maine." "Actually, it's not. Maine is a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows it's being recorded, which I did, it's perfectly legal." I smiled. "You should know that, being a business consultant and all." "What do you want, Jack?" "Justice, accountability, all those things you claimed to want 5 years ago when you felt wronged by the system." The crowd was starting to notice our conversation. Voices dropped, heads turned. In a room full of gossips and social climbers, drama was irresistible. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, raising my voice just enough to carry, "I'd like to tell you a story about revenge, manipulation, and the destruction of innocent people's lives." "Jack, don't—" 5 years ago, Megan Firth was fired from Morrison Marketing for industrial espionage. She blamed me for her termination, and she spent the last 5 years planning her revenge. The crowd was fully focused now, sensing scandal. Phones came out, recording everything. She identified my weaknesses, my marriage, my trust, my love for my wife. Then she systematically exploited them, introducing my wife to a man she knew would be attractive to her, encouraging their relationship, and documenting every step of my humiliation. "That's not true," Megan said, but her voice lacked conviction. I pulled out a folder, copies of everything Evan had helped me gather from Megan's files. Phone records showing months of calls between her and Evan before he'd ever met Clara. Email drafts discussing strategy and timing, meeting notes that read like a military campaign plan. "She kept records," I continued, holding up the documents. Detailed records of her manipulation, her planning, her step-by-step destruction of multiple marriages and families. She was so proud of her work that she couldn't resist documenting it. I started reading from her notes, her own words condemning her. Phase 1, Introduction and Attraction. Phase 2, Escalation and Dependency. Phase 3, Exposure and Destruction. The crowd was silent now, hanging on every word. Megan looked around desperately, but there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. "She destroyed my marriage," I said. "She destroyed Evan Pierce's marriage. She manipulated my wife into betraying everything she claimed to believe in, and she did it all for revenge over a professional disagreement that happened 5 years ago." "You ruined my life," Megan whispered, tears streaming down her face. "No," I replied. "You ruined your own life when you decided that revenge was more important than human decency. I just made sure everyone knew about it." Security was moving toward us now, but I wasn't done. "Ladies and gentlemen, when you're choosing business partners, consultants, or advisors, remember this moment. Remember that Megan Firth spent 5 years planning to destroy innocent people's lives over a professional grudge. Ask yourself, is that the kind of person you want to trust with your business?" The security guards reached us as I finished speaking. They escorted me out of the ballroom, but the damage was done. Every phone in the room had recorded my speech. By morning, it would be all over social media. Megan's consulting business was finished before it started. The video went viral within hours. "Portland business executive exposes 5-year revenge plot," became the most watched local news story in months. The footage was grainy but clear enough. Megan's face as I read from her own notes, the shocked reactions of Portland's business elite, the dramatic confrontation that ended with security dragging me away. I watched it from my hotel room downtown, nursing a bourbon and feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Satisfaction. Not happiness, that would take time, but the deep, bone-deep satisfaction of a job well done. My phone had been ringing constantly. Reporters, friends, colleagues, even a few Hollywood producers who thought my story would make a good movie. I ignored them all except one. "Dad?" My daughter Amelia's voice was small and confused. "I saw the video. What's happening?" I told her everything about the affair, about Megan's manipulation, about the choices I'd made, and the consequences that followed. She listened without interruption, occasionally asking questions, processing the destruction of her parents' marriage with the pragmatic intelligence she'd inherited from both Clara and me. "Are you okay?" she asked when I finished. "I will be." "And Mom?" "Your mother made her choices. Now she has to live with them." "What happens now?" "Now we all figure out how to move forward," Clara called that evening. Her voice was hollow, defeated. "I saw the video. I figured you would. Was any of it real, Jack? The marriage, the love, any of it?" "I thought it was. But maybe we were both just playing roles Megan wrote for us." She was quiet for a long time. "I'm sorry. For all of it. For the affair, for believing her, for not seeing what she was doing to us." "I know. Can you forgive me?" I considered the question seriously. Could I forgive the woman who'd shared my bed for 18 years, who'd borne my children, who'd built a life with me before tearing it down? Could I separate Clara the victim from Clara the perpetrator? "I can forgive you," I said finally. "But I can't trust you. And without trust, we don't have a marriage." "I know." Her voice broke. "I know." Evan Pierce left Portland 2 days later. His wife had filed for divorce, his job was in jeopardy, and his reputation was in ruins. He sent me a single text before he left. "Thank you for showing me the truth." Megan disappeared entirely. Her apartment was cleaned out, her phone disconnected, her social media accounts deleted. Someone said they saw her at the Greyhound station with 2 suitcases, but no one knew where she went. She'd become what she'd always been, a ghost, a manipulator, someone who destroyed lives and moved on. And Tommy Reddick found me at the gym 3 days after the gala, working out my frustrations on the heavy bag. "So what now?" he asked. "You got your revenge. Everyone knows the truth. What's next?" I stopped punching and looked at him. Now I figure out who I am when I'm not being someone else's victim. And who's that? I don't know yet, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Epilogue. 6 months later, the divorce papers were signed on a Tuesday morning in October, exactly 1 year after I discovered Clara's betrayal. We met at our lawyer's offices downtown, dividing 18 years of marriage into asset columns and custody schedules. Clara looks different. Thinner, older, with gray streaks in her blonde hair that she hadn't bothered to cover. She'd found work at a small consulting firm in Boston, a significant step down from her previous position, but a job nonetheless. We were cordial, professional, like business partners dissolving a failed venture. "The kids want to have dinner," she said as we left the building. "All of us together. They think it might help with closure. What do you think?" "I think our children are optimistic about human nature. But maybe that's not a bad thing." We had dinner the following weekend at a neutral restaurant downtown. Ross and Amelia were careful, diplomatic, treating their parents like foreign dignitaries negotiating a peace treaty. It was awkward and artificial, but it was also something. A recognition that we'd all survived, that the family we'd been was gone, but the people we were remained. I moved to a smaller house closer to the coast, with a view of Casco Bay and room for a home gym in the basement. I kept boxing at Tommy's place, but now it was for fitness rather than rage. The anger had burned out, leaving something cleaner behind. Megan Firth never resurfaced in Portland. I heard rumors that she was in Seattle, that she'd moved to Florida, that she'd changed her name and started over somewhere else. I hoped she'd learned something from the experience, but I doubted it. People like Megan don't change. They just find new victims. The story became local legend, the kind of cautionary tale that gets told at business networking events and dinner parties. Remember that guy who exposed his wife's affair at the Business Journal Gala? It was my 15 minutes of fame, and I was content to let it fade into history. On a cold December evening, I was closing up my office when I found an envelope slipped under my door. No return address, no postmark. Someone had delivered it by hand. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed message. "You think you won, but this isn't over. Some games take longer to play than others. A friend." I read it twice, then crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. If Megan wanted to keep playing games, she was welcome to try. But I wasn't the same man she'd started targeting 5 years ago. I wasn't the naive husband who'd trusted blindly and loved without question. I was someone who fought back. And if she wanted another round, I'd be ready. I turned off the lights and locked my office, whistling as I walked to my car. The snow was starting to fall, covering Portland in a clean white blanket that made everything look new and full of possibility. Tomorrow was another day, another chance to build something better from the ruins of what came before. I'd learned that revenge was a dish best served publicly, that trust was earned rather than assumed, and that sometimes the only way to win was to make sure everyone else lost. Most importantly, I'd learned that Jack Anderson, marketing executive, divorced father, survivor, was nobody's victim. Not anymore.